Hello and welcome to the Tennessee Informer. Thank you all for watching or listening to the special Sunday edition of the Tennessee Informer. We're calling these special presentation shows that honor our vets and give them the opportunity to share their stories, echoes from the field. And today we're honored to have two very special guests with us, both veterans and both residing here in West Tennessee. We have a Vietnam veteran, David Fitzhugh from Paris, Tennessee. He served in the 101st Airborne Division in 69 and 70, in 1st Brigade, Alpha 1st with 327. And also our returning guest, Lieutenant Colonel retired Fred Shaw, who did most of his time with SF. You may remember seeing Fred on the show with us before. He has a military museum in Dover and also likes to preserve the stories of veterans. He finds veterans that have a story that they are willing to share and tries to preserve them for future generations, which is very important in my opinion. David Fitzhugh is one of those veterans and wants to share his story with us, and we are glad to hear it. But before we bring on our guest, here is a message from our sponsor. LifeWave. Live long, live well, live young.
Light, the energy of life itself. Since the beginning of time, light has sustained us, fueled our growth, and shaped the world. Even Einstein recognized that everything we are is made of light. But what if we could harness the light within us, not just to live, but to renew, restore, and rejuvenate? Introducing LifeWave X39, the first product in the world that activates stem cells using our body's own light. Backed by clinical research, multiple patents, and over 10 years of stem cell research, a revolutionary wearable light technology that unlocks the power of activating our own stem cells with a single, safe, affordable, non-transdermal patch that puts you back in control of how you look, feel, and perform. Unlike drugs or chemicals, X39 works naturally, awakening your body's ability to heal and thrive. It's time to unlock your full potential, restore your vitality, and embrace a healthier, more vibrant you.
Welcome to the Tennessee Informer, and thank you for joining us for this special presentation. We have two guests today, as I mentioned earlier. We have David Fitzhugh, a Vietnam veteran, and we have Fred Shaw, retired Lieutenant Colonel, Special Forces. Fred, you have the Military Museum, and
correct.
You first met David. Let's talk about how that happened.
Well, I actually got his phone number from our veteran service officer, so I called up David and I talked to him. And then I guess it's bad, but we met at a funeral for a very, I don't know how you want to call Red Eye.
Yeah.
He's one of a kind, but that's how this all came about. So I'm glad to have David here.
Well, we're
glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. We appreciate you being willing to tell your story. So you're from this area. We were talking a little bit before. You grew up?
I grew up in Stewart County, over at Dover,
okay,
across the river. I graduated from Stewart County High School in 1968. When I was in 5th grade, my family moved to what is now Land Between the Lakes. And I grew up in the Fort Henry community. I went to a one-room schoolhouse there at Fort Henry, had one teacher, one room, and 8 grades. And it was just myself and another girl that was in my age group or class. And so I went to school there. And then when TVA bought it out in the 60s, 63, 64, I think, then we moved back to land we owned before we moved to the LBL.
Right.
So
now you volunteered for the draft in '69.
I volunteered for the draft because my number was high or low. I knew I was going to be drafted at any time. Mm-hmm. And I worked at Train Company in Clarksville, Tennessee, which is still there. And I wanted to buy a new truck that I'd found in Murray, Kentucky. And my mind told me, you buy this truck today, they're going to call you tomorrow, you know. So I thought, well, I don't want that to happen. Right. So I talked to another friend of mine, and he said, why don't we just, we're both going to go pretty quick. Why don't we just go down and volunteer for the draft and let them call us next time. They'll either take us or they won't take us.
Right.
And we go in on a buddy system. and that's what we did. And then in basic training, we went through basic training together, but I think it was right around the end of basic training, he got sick and had to go in the hospital and missed a week or so, and he had to retake basic training.
Yeah.
And from there, they sent me to Fort Polk, Louisiana. That's a stopover between on your way to Vietnam.
Infamous, yeah, that's kind of to prep you for Vietnam,
Yeah,
right? The closest bad place they could find to prep you before you go to Vietnam, right?
And it's hot, and it's humid, and it's swampy, and it all kind of goes in a lot of Vietnam. So
Now, you went to basic, you went all the way, they sent you all the way to Fort Campbell for basic, right?
well, yeah, a whole 25, 30 miles at that time. Yeah. So, yeah, I took all my basic there at Fort Campbell, and like I said, then I went to Fort Polk, Louisiana, and finished my AIT there. My actually MOS was light infantry weapons, which was mortars,
Right.
and that's what I trained in there at Fort Polk.
Yep.
But then when they sent me to Vietnam, and I was with the 101st, they didn't need nobody in mortars. So
Right.
they put me in infantry. Well, about a month after I was there, they said, hey, we need somebody in mortars. You want to come? I said, no, because I done made friends, got to know everybody, you know.
Right.
And I thought, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to stay where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did.
What year did you go to basic training at Fort Campbell?
69.
69. Okay.
April of 69 is when I went to Fort Campbell for basic.
And then you went to Vietnam what year?
In like the second or third day of September
Of
of
69.
69.
Okay.
So
How long was basic training in those days?
6 or 8 weeks. I
6
don't,
or 8 weeks? Okay. I was
I
just
don't
curious.
remember you.
Yeah, it's about that, 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Yeah. And so you get there and you're in the 101st in Vietnam. You're in 1st Brigade, Alpha, 1st of 327.
Yes.
I think I think that battalion motto is
Above the rest.
Above the rest? Okay. Which one is no slack? Of course, it may have changed.
Second.
That.
That's
Second.
second.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah, we were above the rest.
Okay.
Hey, we went. That was our password. Anytime that we were out, we was coming back in at night or something, we would do the ABU so they know it was us. But
Right. So I don't know if there is an average day in Vietnam, but what were some things that you could pretty much expect every day while you were
well,
there?
let me start by telling you my experience of going to Vietnam. Because you know how basic an AIT is, hurry up, wait, on everything.
Yep.
So our plane lands in Vietnam, Cam Ranh Bay or Ben Hoa, I don't remember where it was. And we're on a commercial air flight. You know, we got stewardess and high heels and skirts back that time. They don't do that anymore. But so I'm kind of at the back of the plane and we land, and the commanding officer, whoever it was on the plane at the time, says, get up, get off this plane as fast as you can. Don't take nothing with you. Just go. And
Right.
go to the front of the plane and jump in the ditch. And I'm thought, here we go. Hurry up and
Wow.
you
Welcome to
know.
Vietnam, huh?
So I'm going out the back of the plane. So when I get to the top, and we're on the tarmac, so when I get to the top, I look toward the front of the plane, I see a stewardess take off her high heels and run and go over that bank. I thought, this is for real. She ain't doing that because she
No,
won't
she's
stay.
not
Wow.
training.
And I remember the heat, the humidity.
Oh,
hit
yeah.
me when I got off that plane. It just takes your breath. It was so hot. So we get off and we run. We get in the ditch. We hear bombs going off. You know, it was getting artillery or mortar or rockets coming in. And I later heard that they told the pilot not to land, but he was already
On the way
almost at
down.
touchdown, and he didn't have time to get back up, so he had to. So the next morning, I go to the mess hall, and I just get my trait, and I turn around to go to a table, and rockets start going off. Trays are flying, people are diving under tables. I'm thinking, this is my 2 days in Vietnam, and I got a year of this.
Yeah. That sounds like a rough 2 days.
You weren't even in process yet.
I know it. That's true.
Wow.
And then they sent me up north with the 101st. We went up to I Corps, Of course, there's 5 corps in Vietnam, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 5th. I being closest to the DMZ,
Right.
or 1 Corps. We call it I Corps. And that's where I was. We were kindly a little west away. The closest village or city was Phu Bai.
Okay.
To our Camp Eagle is where we were. And our area of operation was up in that area, A Shaw Valley. Been there a couple times. That wasn't a pleasant place to go. But we worked all around that area. And most of the time, we were in the mountains.
Right.
I was in the mountains more than I was out of the mountains. In the jungle, in the mountains. And
That rug got heavy, I bet, in those mountains.
I thought, the first few weeks, I'm carrying a rucksack. And I tell people this, and they think I'm crazy. It probably weighed close to 100 pounds.
Oh, I don't doubt it a bit.
We carried a case of sea rations, plus your water, plus your ammunition, plus your smoke grenade, and all the stuff that you carried, C4,
Yep.
claymores. On resupply day, I could not reach down and pick it up and put it on my back. I either had to sit down and put it on and have somebody pull me up, or a couple of guys put it on for me.
Yeah.
But when it was full, it felt good, if you had it right,
tight enough,
and you
right.
learn to pack it
Yeah.
to where you put your heavy stuff on top.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when it started getting empty, them heavy cans on the bottom, and it
pulls you back.
pulling you
Yep.
more. So you get used to all that stuff. But being in the mountains and being the heat and the humidity and the weight of that pack, I thought, I don't have to get shot. I'm going to die from this. This is killing me.
Yeah, I understand that one well.
But
So when you guys would go out, how long would you stay out at a time?
sometime a month, they would bring us in. I think they tried to at least once a month for 2 or 3 days.
Right.
Now, that might be on a far support base.
Right.
They would rotate out companies on far support bases. One company would leave, another company would go in and provide security for the guns and all on that far support base.
Right.
And of course, when we was there, we had showers and hot meals
Yeah.
and whatnot. But most of the time, we were in the jungle as long as we could get resupply. Now, during rainy season, the fog moves in, the helicopters can't get to us.
Right.
They would move us. If we're lucky, and I'm thinking maybe 3 or 4 times my whole tour, we got to go into Camp Eagle, the main base camp. And that would be called a stand down. And they usually had some kind of floor show, and they had movies, and I remember the movies were like an outside movie theater,
Right.
and run off of generators, and our generator stopped every 15 minutes. So we would go up over the hill to the CBs,
Yeah.
because they had good, theirs never stopped. They had good movies, and they had popcorn.
Oh, wow.
But we went up one day, there's 4 or 5 of us guys just out of the field. Let's go watch a movie at the CBs. So we go up over the hill to the CBs. We're sitting there watching a movie, and one of them CBs thought it'd be funny to throw out a bale of firecrackers. Every one of us, myself and my buddies, man, we were diving under stuff. And but they thought it's funny. We didn't think it's
Yeah,
funny.
I bet. I bet.
But yeah, we go into Camp Eagle just a few times. They had the way they had it set up for us for resupply, like you got a ration card for cigarettes and beer, Cokes. There was ration cards, and so each one of us did, we give our clerk our ration card, and then we put in, I think, $3 a month out of our pay. So anytime there was a stand down, when we came in, they had coolers and coolers full of Cokes, beer, whatever you wanted, you know. And cigarettes. They would send the cigarettes out to us of course, you get them little packs in your
Yep.
sea rations.
Yep, Marlboros and,
And I smoked-
Chesterfields.
What's funny, I smoked Pall Mall unfiltered. And I was the only one in my whole platoon that did.
Wow.
So on resupply day, it wasn't nothing for me to get 5, 6, 7 cartons of Pall Mall.
Wow.
And I'd have to destroy them all, but what I kept, because you didn't want the enemy getting them. You
Right.
didn't send them back, so
Yeah, yeah.
we dig trenches and destroy them, put them in the trench and bury them. But that's the way our company clerks took care of us, so
Those Pall Malls probably didn't make those hills any easier, huh?
probably not.
So when you were there, who was supporting you as far as helicopters? Was that 2nd Cav?
I don't remember who was supporting us, but I do remember we had 2 companies that did. One of them was called the Comancheros, and one of them was called Kingsman.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was better than the other one, and I don't remember which. And the reason I say better, one of them would take risk, one of them wouldn't.
Right.
I remember going in on an LZ one time, a helicopter got fired at, and they sent us in to find out who was the enemy. And when we went in, the blades would hit a tree limb
Mm-hmm.
on the LZ because it wasn't quite wide enough. But they'd get low enough, we'd jump out, the bird. And at that particular time, there was only, excuse me, there was only maybe 10 or 12 of us
Mm-hmm.
got off. And then the other choppers would not land. They wouldn't get low enough. They didn't want their blades hitting trees.
Really?
And chancing a crash. So I remember that was pretty leery time.
Yeah, only
it was
11 of you on the
only
ground?
so many on the ground, and
Yeah.
we spent the night.
Right.
But that wasn't as scary for me as when I went to go on R&R, which was 6 months later after being there. Helicopter I was supposed to leave in was coming in. They was bringing resupply. And we run out of C4 and deck cord. And we told them, we said, the LZ is not big enough. We need to blow some more, but we're out. You need to bring us some more
Sure.
C4 and deck cord. So he goes around and he looks. He said, I can land on that. Okay. So I got my rucksack. I'm ready to get on this helicopter, go on R&R. And he comes in and one of them blades hit the tree. The next thing I know, the tail has fallen off the helicopter. And the helicopter's kind of sideways and people are running everywhere. And I'm running and getting behind a tree. But long story short, the pilot, co-pilot, and 2 door gunners had to stay the night out there with us. Now, you talking about somebody not getting any sleep.
Right.
Every few minutes, what was that? What was that? Because they'd never spent the night in the jungle.
Right.
And, but I thought that was kind of funny.
How long did it take you to adjust to the sounds in the jungle?
Well, my wife tell you I sleep pretty hard now, but over there I used to tell people a leaf could fall off a tree and I'd hear it before it hit the ground. But of course, your senses are so alert.
Wired,
They've got to
yep.
be there.
Right.
We not only had enemies, we had tigers, and there was people in Vietnam actually killed by tigers.
Yes.
Yeah, I read about that.
And in fact, we had one trip one of our flares one night, and so you just alert to any noise. I remember one time we was in this area, and we put our claymores out, and I was squad leader then. One of my guys come to me and he said, and everybody called me Tennessee, by the way. Nobody knew my name. I was Tennessee. So one of the guys come to me and he says, Tennessee said, I heard a noise out by the claymores. So I told all my guys, okay, go out, be careful, check your claymores. They did. There was 1 or 2 claymores had been turned around toward us.
Yeah.
So they had snuck in with what it was, a 100-foot cord, I think.
Pretty close.
They got that close to us, and turned those around. And they come in one time, probably within 100 feet, and put a booby trap
Oh, wow.
on a trail that we used every day going out of this area. And we just happened to find it before somebody tripped it.
Yeah. How long would y'all stay in one area when you're out in the woods, out in the jungle?
It depends. Now, what we call, if it was rainy and they couldn't resupply us in the mountains, they'd carry us to what we call the lowlands, which wasn't really the lowlands, but we were near villages or outside of villages near Fubai or away.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be out close to villages. And what we do there is we do some trolling during the day, and then usually at night we go out and set up ambushes. And they had us there at one time for 2 weeks training ARVNs, which is the
Right.
Army of the Republic of Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another story. They'd steal you blind for one thing, and they didn't learn nothing. We go out on an ambush, and we'd set up an ambush. We'd take, some of them, and we're in there and we're quiet. You don't know we're there. They're walking around with flashlights, hanging hammocks. We just take it off from them. We leave them.
Yeah.
We're not going,
Well, see, my father-in-law brought that story up. He was a door gunner when he was in Vietnam, and he said when you pick up the ARVN, he said they would be carrying chickens, pots and pans, all this stuff, and they would get off the helicopter, and he said one time the chicken had laid an egg, so the guy grabbed the egg and left his weapon on the helicopter because he wanted the egg more than that rifle.
Well, I learned really quick from working with them and whatnot. You can't help people that's not willing to help themselves. They wanted us to do
Everything.
for them.
Right.
So, and I think all Vietnam veterans will agree, we were there for each other to try to see if we could all get home alive.
Right.
Yeah.
Protecting each other as brothers. There was no color. It was OD green.
That's right. Always green. You're right.
We were brothers.
Yeah.
It depended on it. Your life depended on it. Their life depended on it. In fact, a friend of mine, one of my buddies I got together on a cruise, we were sitting and talking one day, and I'd bought a ring, and we were going to get off the cruise, and he was staying on, and he said, I'll bring it to you. I said, okay. He said, you do know I once trusted you with my life. And I said, yeah, and I trusted you with mine. But yeah.
So the reason I was asking about the second cab being in there, one of our veterans was 3 helicopters behind Hal Moore when we went into LZ X-ray. And those guys, I mean, before that, there was the 11th Air Assault Test Division that went in and became the second cab. So that's why I was asking about that, because it fits pretty close to when you were there.
Well, if we back up from the time I got to Vietnam, it come time to go to the field. There were 3 of us that was going to the field. They told one of them, well, you're going to Eagle Beach. That's a beach that the 101st used. You might get to go there for 2 or 3 days. The actual beach. And you're going to Eagle Beach. You're going to Camp Eagle. Pointed at me and said, you're going on a combat assault. I said, oh, yeah, here we go. But we went out, and it was already secure because the guys was already there. So it was, friendly LZ when I landed. And that's where I first hooked up and met all my guys I served with. And they put me in a gun team, which I carried ammo, can of ammo. And then somebody left, and the assistant gunner took over the M60 machine gun, and he made me his assistant gunner. So I was an assistant gunner to him, and he became one of my best friends. There was 4 of us that were really like brothers, and he was one of them. And unfortunately, he lost his life there. But I was his assistant gunner, and then he left. Oh, he became squad leader. That's what it was. He became squad leader, and I took over his M60 as a machine gunner. And I carried it for 3 months. There's a picture of me with my M60. And and that was in what we call the lowlands, around those old blowed up pagodas. But anyway, I carried that M60 for 2 or 3 months, probably. And I came in one day to Camp Eagles. They brought us all in at Thanksgiving, I think. Yeah. And the commanding officer called me aside. He said, Tennessee said, I want to send you to combat leadership school. And he said, it'd be an honor if you'd come back honor student out of that school. I said, sir, I will do my very best.
So now, how long had you been there at that time?
I don't know, 4 or 5 months, 6 maybe.
But when you first got there, they sent you right out to a unit. It's not like they sent you to the rear and here, we're going to give you a week or 2 weeks of, train up before we, they
sent us to a fire support base. And I was on it for 2 or 3 days, and then they choppered me out to the jungle.
In 2 or 3 days, you didn't really learn much other than
no.
Everything out there can kill you.
Except what you learn on that fire support base.
Right.
But anyway, so I went to combat leadership school. There was 72 of us in class. And I'm proud to say I did make honor graduate. Yeah. But I had ups on a lot of them because part of the class, it was taught by some of the Rangers, and part of it was rappelling. Some of these people had never rappelled down a wall or out of a helicopter.
Right.
101st, we rappelled.
Yeah. They were.
And to me,
101st was air mobile by then.
To me, it was fun.
It is fun. I agree with you. I enjoyed it.
And you could either slack jump, where they pull up enough rope and you just jump and fall about 10 feet under the skid and then go down. Or you can get out on the skid and lean back and drop. But if you drop, you better drop far enough that your head clear of that skid when you go back on that helicopter.
Yeah.
So, but I had that up on a lot of them. Another thing I had up on them was we had to write an ambush. I've been on a lot of ambushes. So I just wrote one that we'd been on. How we set it up.
Sure, of course.
And then it came down to me and one other guy. So we had to go out on night patrol. And we come to a road, you had to have right, left guards and all this, and so we was walking along. And we go walk into an ambush. And it's fake. It's not a real ambush. But and they say, okay, you are wounded, you and you're dead,
right.
And then they asked me, and they asked, what are you going to do? The other guy says, I'm going to pull back, call in artillery. He asked me, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to get my wounded and my KIAs and WIAs back, and then I'm going to call in artillery.
Yeah.
That was the right answer. You don't leave them.
Never.
Never.
Yeah.
So I got honor graduate, and then when I come back, they made me squad leader.
And that was all in 6 months.
And I was squad leader the rest of the time.
Wow. Now, but you were an E4 the whole time. Okay.
Well, I was acting sergeant.
Yeah.
I had 2 sergeants under me, 2 E5s under me that came in after I made squad leader.
Right.
So I was over both of them. And they were both with me the day I got wounded. But I was in charge. I was a squad leader. So
now that's interesting. So you're an E4, but you have 2 E5s under you.
I had one of my friends that was on the cruise with us, Larry Padole is his name, and he's from Wisconsin. He was an acting sergeant also.
Really?
He had E5s under him before he made E5. And I was up to make E5 the next time we went to Camp Eagle, but I got wounded before that happened.
Well, I'm glad to see that they had enough sense to, okay, this guy's got more experience than these guys just because they have the rank and they actually put them under you. That surprises me. That's not something I would have seen in my time frame.
I got some funny stories.
Oh, yeah.
We got time. One of them is that when I was after I gave up the M60 and I made squad leader, they put us on a fire sport base for 2 or 3 days. Well, out from this fire base, there was like a river or a lake. I don't remember which one it was. And there was a railroad track that ran around the side of it. And the NVA had kept blowing that railroad track up. So we went out on what we called a 6-man killer team. It was strictly volunteer. 6 of you went out. You went out to find the enemy, not make contact with them, but see if you can locate them. You weren't supposed to contact them unless you had to. But
Right.
there's 6 of us, strictly volunteered, and it's called a 6-man killer team because you're the most likely one to be killed. Because there's only 6 of you. You don't
Right.
know what you're going to hit.
Yeah.
I think I volunteered for every one of them. I was a nut back then. But anyway, we were going to go out down, check out these railroad tracks one night off this fire sport base. So I told the guys, I said, you know what, I'm going to carry the M60 tonight instead of my 14. So here we go, or 60. So here we go, and we're walking through this elephant grass along the edge of the water, going toward the railroad track, and the point man stops us and motioned us for to back up. And we did. He said, I got movement up ahead. He said, I'm going to go back and call it in because you didn't want them to hear the squelch on the radio. So myself and a couple more guys, I had the M60, and we're there in the trail, and we're watching this away. And all at once, this elephant grass just started moving like crazy. And I mean, it's just there. I looked at them and I said, let's do it. And I opened up that M60 just back and forth. You know, I was down on one knee. And then we took off. We lit a shut and we went back up in the elephant grass somewhere and hid out. Stayed all night long, hiding out. And the next day they sent down a squad to come down and meet up with us and
Right.
go in and see what was there. And when we did, it was a water buffalo. A hamburger water buffalo.
So is water buffalo pretty good?
Well, I don't know. We didn't eat that. Popson was not a happy customer.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
telling you, he was not happy. We killed his water buffalo.
I bet that happened a lot over there.
I bet it did too. Yeah, but yeah, there's lots of tales I could tell. And
Whatever you
go
want
ahead.
to
well,
tell.
let me tell you about my haunts, and then we can go back and forth. But I've had 2 things that bothered me the whole 55 years since Vietnam
Right.
that I didn't have the answer to. One was each day the squad leaders took turns at taking out the patrol. We would go ahead half a mile, check stuff out, and then the rest of the platoon would come up. And we took turns. Well, the day before I was wounded, I had taken the patrol out, and we came to a river that night. We crossed the river, and it was dark by the time we all got across this little river. And we had to set up on the other side, and it had been sprayed with Agent Orange. Everything was dead. I mean, it wasn't no cover or nothing. We were just out in the open.
Wow.
And but we didn't want to move at night, so we stayed right there. Well, the next morning, I always thought that my lieutenant came to me and says, Tennessee said, I want you to take out a patrol again today. That's what I always thought. And I said, okay. And I would have if he'd said that. And another halt was, he said, I want you to take my radio operator. Take Bob with you. Well, Bob and I got in country the same day. I had my own radio operator, my own RTO as a squad leader. And that was the first time that Lieutenant had ever sent his radio operator with anybody. Ever. And that always haunted. Why did he send him with me
Right,
that day,
yeah.
you know? So last year when we took the cruise, I was telling my buddies these haunts. And one of them from Alabama, he told me, he said, I can answer one of them for you. I said, what's that? He said, it was my turn to take out a patrol. I only had 2 weeks left in country. And you came to me and said, you don't need to be out there. I'm taking your patrol. Because he only had 2 weeks left in country, and I didn't figure he'd need to be out front in the jungle, with 2 weeks left. And I volunteered to take it. He said, you probably saved my life. I said, well, I don't know about that. But anyway, then last year, they came to Tennessee to visit me. And I made contact with the radio operator. And I asked him, I said, Bob, why didn't the lieutenant send you with me that day? He said, I don't know. I said, that's the first time he ever did. And he said, yeah. But he said, I don't know why he did. I said, you saved my life. He said, how did I save your life? I said, because when I was wounded, and when I finally got back beside of him and calling in artillery and whatnot, but anyway, I got back beside of him, and I told him, I said, when the medevac gets here, I'm not going on this chopper, because he had immediately called the lieutenant, and snipers had him pinned down.
Right.
So my thought was, if snipers got the rest of the platoon pinned down, they're going to work us over. So I told my guys, get a perimeter, don't shoot at anything unless you see something to shoot at. Because we don't know how much ammunition we're going to need.
Right.
And I told Bob, I said, when the helicopter medevac gets here, I'm not going. I'm staying. My flight man was KIA and killed in action. Of course, you all know that. But he said, Tennessee, you got to. He said, you're bleeding to death. It cut an artery in my arm, and I had 3 big compresses on it and a shirt and everything else. It just bleeding right through. And he said, you're going to bleed to death. He said, you've got to go on this bird. He said, if you stay, you're going to die. He convinced me to go. Had it been my radio operator, and I said, I'm not going. Okay. He'd never said a word. Right. I know for a fact he would have never said a word. He'd have never questioned me.
Right.
So I credit Bob for saving my life. So then a couple of days after that, I made contact with a lieutenant that sent him. And I said, why did you send Bob with me that day? I said, you'd never seen him with anybody before. He said, Tennessee, he said, the only thing that I can tell you, it must have been God's intervention. And I said, it must have been, because he saved my life. I know he did. Must have been God's intervention. And that was good enough for me.
So can you talk us through what happened that day?
Well, there were 3 ridge tops. And on one of those ridge tops was an LZ, landing zone. Of course, y'all know what that is, but for the public, say it was a landing zone for the helicopters land, and we were supposed to get resupplied that day.
Right.
So my squad went out looking for this landing zone. Well, we got the first ridge, and there was no landing zone. And we had a good trail all the way up to the first ridge, because we never wanted to cut trail. Makes too much noise.
Right.
That's something I can say about my whole platoon. You didn't know where we were. We went in the Ashall Valley one time, and everybody, all the other companies and everything, were digging foxholes. Most every one of them got rocketed and mortared, not us. We didn't dig no hole. We ain't making no noise. Right. We didn't take stuff at Jingle Jangle, and we didn't talk like we are now.
Right.
And nobody in my platoon was on any kind of drug. And that's something I'm proud to say, too. But anyway, from going up to the second ridge line, the trail ran out, and we had to use our machetes to cut a trail. Right. And if you've ever chopped on bamboo, it's loud. You can hear it for a ways.
Yeah, it is.
And so we were really leery, but we had to. There was no way to get through. It was so thick. And I typically walked third man back. I had my point man, my slack man, myself, and my radio operator. That's the way we typically walked. I was third. And when it had rained a little bit the night before, just enough to settle the dust. And when I got up, and we got up to this, it was an old Arvin position. They had foxholes around this kind of clearing. It wasn't LZ, but it was an old Arvin. And there in the dust, I saw a boot track where the rain had just, I could see that boot track. Yep. So I told my point man, I said, I'm going to take over point. I'd been there longer than they had more experience, had some good teachers. And I said, I'm going to take over point. And so I was in point, and my slack man was off to my right and just a little behind me. And, of course, after seeing the boot track, I had my finger on the trigger, had my gun on, my rifle on automatic, and it was just like brush, almost like a hedgerow. And about at that angle, not much further from here to that door, I saw a gun barrel. I never seen anything but the gun barrel. And as soon as I saw that gun barrel, I started around. And then I seen smoke coming out that gun barrel. And then I felt it hit me. It felt like you was hitting me with your fist, just bam, bam. Except for I got hit. My slack man was also hit with a grenade. And some of that grenade got me. And it was like a pressure went right across my waist, Mm-hmm. And it was shrapnel. And I dove behind a tree, and I looked, and I was able to reach my weapon, and it wouldn't shoot. Of course, it had been hit a couple of times.
I think we have a picture of it, too.
Yep. Put that up there if we could. Do we have the picture of the weapon that was hit? There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one on the left was my rifle. And if you see the stock of that rifle, you see where it's hit.
Right.
The bullet hole. Well, that bullet went through my arm before it went through the stock of that rifle. And the forearm up there where it's busted, that's where my hand was. My knuckle on my left hand was shot off. My thumb was barely hanging. In fact, I thought they would amputate my thumb in the hospital. When I went into surgery, I thought I'm going to wake up without my thumb. The other rifle was my slack man's rifle. My rifle was also hit in the receiver, and or it would have got me in the stomach. But I got behind this big tree, and I've told a lot of people this. Believe it or not, the first thing that crossed my mind when I put my back to that tree is if you've got faith of the mustard seed, you'll be okay. And I said, Lord, I got it. And, of course, they're shooting back and forth, both sides of me at that time, and I'm trying to put on bandages because I know I'm losing blood here. And I had some compresses with me, and I was just wrapping them around my arm, and holding them.
Right.
And I knew I was hitting other places, but I knew that was bleeding
The worst one, right.
So one of my buddies said, Tennessee, I'm coming to you. And I'm saying, no, wait, because they're still fighting. He said, I'm coming to you. And I guess he risked his life coming to me, and he did. He got to me and started checking me out, took his shirt off, wrapped it around my arm, took his knife and cut my leg, and had a bullet hole in my leg, had shrapnel in my leg. And of course, my hand, my knuckle, my thumb. And I didn't know I was hitting the chest till I got to the hospital. Mm-hmm. But what happened there, and it was right almost dead center, is I had a bandolier ammo across that held my clips, 7 clips. And that bullet hit one of them. I feel like that's what slowed it down.
Probably,
Right.
yeah.
And then it went into me. And I think one of the shells inside of it exploded, and it hit my chin, and it busted my chin open because I kept bleeding from my chin, And but the bandolier stopped that bullet probably. And so we called in a medevac. Well, first of all, I told the guy, I said, cover me. I'm coming back to the radio operator. So I got my mount and I looked real quick, figured everything out, and I called in an artillery strike. And I called it in so close that the shrapnel was hitting the trees around us. And I thought, well, I'm going to back it out a little bit.
Danger close, yep.
So I backed it out, and Bob had already called for a medevac. And I was sitting there, and the medevac comes on, and he says, pop a smoke. So pop yellow smoke. He said, I see 2 yellow smokes. Bob said, we only pop one. He said, well, maybe the NVA is trying to fool us. He said, pop another one. So he popped purple smoke. He identified yellow and purple. So that was us, So that's where he's coming. And he first told Bob, he said, put the WIA, which was myself, on the bottom and the KIA on top of the basket. I told Bob, I said,
Oh, you're doing a jungle extraction at this point. Oh, okay.
And I told Bob, I said, KIA on the bottom, me on top. If we take fire,
Yeah.
not going to hurt him any.
Right.
And the pilot says, yeah, I agree with that. And they always taught us, in training, you don't touch the basket till it grounds itself because you can't get electrocuted.
You're right.
And you got straps that go across down low, and you got some across your chest and whatnot. They strap you in this basket. Well, as soon as I laid down, I had my feet to his head. As soon as I lay down on the basket, I hear AK fire. They're firing at the helicopter. I ain't strapped in. And he takes off.
Oh.
And I'm upside down about that angle, and I'm holding the cables. Otherwise, I'm falling out.
Right.
And I'm holding these cables with a death grip. And he takes off real fast, high, and moving away real slow. And it winches me inside. And once I got inside, I asked the medic, I said, I need to stand up or set up. He didn't want to first, and I said, man, I got to set up. He said, okay. So I set up, and I said, I need some water. I had blood all in my mouth. He gave me a canteen of water. We're flying to the hospital, and I look at one of the door gunners, and he lights up a cigarette. And he looks around at me, and he just handed it right to me. It was a Salem cigarette, menthol. I smoked Pell Mell. That was the best tasting cigarette I'd had.
Oh, wow, I bet.
Now. But I remember when we landed at the hospital, it was like the old mask flashed in front of me. They all run out with a gurney, and 3 or 4 on each side, and they throw you on it, and they rush you into the hospital. And I remember turning around and looking, and I'm seeing blood dripping out the door, and I'm thinking, that's my blood. He's not bleeding. And I won't say where he was hit, but it wasn't pleasant to look at.
Now, was that the slack man?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was an E5. He was one of the E5s.
That were under you, okay.
Yeah. And, excuse me, so they rushed me into the hospital, which is a glorified great big tent. And they was nursing on each side of me, and they had scissors, and I'm telling you what, in less than 30 seconds, I don't think I had anything on. They even cut my boots off. And we got to a bunch of leeches that morning.
Right.
The brown ones about that long.
Right.
And sometimes you'd hit an area and they were just everywhere, and sometimes you'd not have them. And I'd pick several off of me, and they'd leave a bloody spot.
Yeah.
So the nurse was going, he's hit here. I said, no, that was a leech. Hit here. No, that was a leech. I knew kind of which one was leeches. So within an hour, they had me in surgery. I woke up, they had me tied down. My arms were strapped down. So I got them untied. And I remember the doctor, I said, I want anything you dug out of me. He said, man, you had so much stuff in you, they hauled it off in a deuce and a half. Joking with me. And, but needless to say, my company, my first sergeant and my company commander came to the hospital. They were there when they got me. We had line numbers. They didn't use names. We had line numbers, line number so-and-so. When you called it in, you didn't call in the person's name. And they were there to talk to me, and ask me what happened and this and that. And and then I asked the doctor, I said, are you going to notify my parents? And they said, we won't if you don't want to. I said, I don't want you to. I said, do not notify my parents. I said, I'll write them a letter. And I did. About 2 days later, I had bandages everywhere. And I had to write it left-handed and joking with my mom, hey, I got some ghost time. I'm up here in the hospital just chilling out. Walked in the ambush and got shot, but I'm fine, Didn't want them to worry. Right. Then they get the telegram that scared them to death.
That gives them all the details, yeah.
Well, just enough to really worry them. And, yeah, that was, and then they presented me, of course, with a Purple Heart and whatnot. I was in the hospital in Vietnam, there at that hospital, only just 3 or 4 days. And then they sent me to a bigger hospital. I don't remember if it's Da Nang or where.
Saigon, something like that.
Yeah. And I was there. When I first got there, the doctor come, he's checking me out. And he said, send him to Camp Zama. And I'm thinking, where's Camp Zama? I hadn't heard of Camp Zama. So I asked him, I said, where's Camp Zama? He said, Japan. You're on your way home, baby.
Oh, wow.
So then I was in Vietnam probably another week or 2 at different hospitals. And then they sent me to Camp Zama, Japan. And that's where they actually sewed me up.
They hadn't sewed you up?
They didn't sew me up after surgery. And when the first 2 or 3 times they changed the bandages, I could see the bone in my arm. It was that open. They said it had to heal from the inside out or it'd get infected. So they didn't sew me up till I got to Japan. They put me to sleep in Japan and sewed me up.
Right.
And they still got infected before I got back to Fort Campbell. They didn't take them out till I got back to Fort Campbell. And so did that. And they first told me in Japan, they said, where you want to go stateside? I said, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And they said, Fort Campbell's not set up to receive wounded from Vietnam. I said, well, Fort Knox, Kentucky. Kentucky joined Tennessee. That can't be too far, right? So I lay there in bed one day, and over the intercom it came and told me, it said, get your stuff ready. You're going to Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Wow, so they did change it.
And they sent me to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and I landed in Scott Air Force Base in Illinois first. So I called home. I told them, I said, I'm in Scott Air Force Base here in Illinois. And they told me it'd be 3 days before I got to Campbell. And I got relatives who live within 15, 20 minutes of Scott Air Force Base. So I called them. They said, we'll be over as soon as, a husband or wife gets off work, we'll come over. Well, about an hour later, they come in and they said, you're going to Fort Campbell in the morning. So I called home. My brother answered his phone. I said, let me talk to Mom. She ain't here. Where is she? They're on the way to see you.
Oh, in Illinois.
Base. So it was like a family reunion there at that hospital.
I bet.
They both, my relatives and Mom and Dad, my aunt and uncle all got there about the same time. And it was like a family reunion. And then when I got to Fort Campbell, I told the doctor, I said, let me go home for the weekend. He said, I don't know. Can't do that. I said, I only live 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
And he said, I tell you what, if you promise me, you start running a fever or anything, you get your butt back up here, I'll let you go. I said, okay. So he gave me a pass to go home for the weekend.
Wow.
And
So were there any other wounded that came into Fort Campbell with you?
one other guy, of course, I didn't know him, but he was from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I do know that. And he'd been shot 3 or 4 times in the leg. But as far as I know, it was just us two there.
Just wondered.
And at that time. And of course, like I said, he was from Chattanooga and I was from Dover. So.
So did they discharge you soon after that, or?
No, I tried to go back to Vietnam. I told him, I said, I want to go back, but only one way that I will. And I'll go back to my company, my platoon. I go back with the guys I left. Otherwise, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
And so they looked at my records and they said, well, you've got muscle and nerve damage in your arm and your leg. And we're afraid that it might affect your performance. And so, no, you can't go. Yeah. So they sent me to Fort Lewis, Washington, for the 3rd Armored Cab Division. And that's almost like vacation. Fort Lewis, Washington was a good place to be.
It is. It is nice.
It was a good place.
It is
It's
nice.
You've got something I think you wanted to read?
Oh, yeah. While we were there, I had a friend. His name was Ronald Jordan. He was a machine gunner like myself at the time. But we were on a fire support base one time, and they came around and wanted to know if any of us wanted to be door gunners. And I thought, no, I don't want to hit a hot LZ every day, as a door gunner, so I'll pass. But he did, and he didn't get wounded, but the other door gunner got hit, and he came close to getting hit his first flight out.
Wow.
As a door gunner. But he wrote this song, and I can't sing it. I do know what it's supposed to sound like, but I'm no singer. But I think it's a better poem, and I think it's really good. So I would like to read it. It's by Specialist Ronald Jordan, Company A, 1st Battalion, 327th Infantry, 101st Airborne Division, 1969. It's called Boonie Rat. And this is the way it goes. I landed in this country with 1 year of life to give, my only friend a weapon, and my only prayer to live. I walked away from freedom, the life that I had known. I saw the weary faces of the others going home. Boonie rat, scared but not alone. 300 days, more or less, and then I'm going home. My first few days were busy as they psyched my mind for war. I sometimes got to feeling they're trying to tie the score. I learned to look for danger in the trees and on the ground. I learned to feel the terror when you hear an AK round. Boonie rat, scared but not alone. 300 days, more or less, and then I'm going home. First day in my unit, I climbed a 2-click hill to find an enemy soldier to capture, wound, or kill. The air was clear and humid. The sun was hot and dry. 10 times I cursed my rucksack and prayed that I could die. Boonie rat, scared but not alone. 200 days, more or less, and then I'm going home. I humped the hills in sunshine, in the mud, the wind, and the rain. Some days have passed so quickly that I thought they never came. My eyes are often weary, my feet are racked with pain. My back is bad and crooked from the loaded rucksack strain. Boonie rat, scared but not alone. 200 days, more or less, and then I'm going home. At night I lie back, tired, and I gaze at the sky. I hear the mortars thumping, and I see the rockets fly. I hope that Charlie's sleeping, and the last thing that I pray, that the night will pass all quiet, and I'll see another day. Boonie rat, scared but not alone. 100 days, more or less, and then I'm going home. Above the rest is our motto, and airborne is our cry. Freedom is our mission. For this we do or die. The Boonie rat's a legend. From now and times to come, where there's a soldier, he will think of what he's done. Boonie rat, scared but not alone. 50 days. I'm getting short, and then I'm going home. My tour is almost over, and I slowly count each day as I leave the field and say goodbye to friends along the way. They say there'll always be war. I hope they're very wrong. To the Boonie Rats of Vietnam, I dedicate this song. Boonie rat, scared but not alone. Today I see the freedom bird. Today I'm going home.
That's great.
I thought it was.
That's great.
I wonder if if they have a copy of that at 1st Brigade on 101st or the museum, because if not, they need to.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
like I said, it did go into Stars and Stripes, the magazine Stars and Stripes. I do know it.
I've heard
published
something
there.
like that before, and maybe it was just the term Boonie Rat, but it seems like I remember. I don't know that it was that one.
Yeah.
And I was never in 1st 327, but
Yeah, I'd like to get a copy of that too.
yeah.
That'd be great.
And one thing, when I called this lieutenant and to ask him about why he sent Bob that day, and of course, like I said, nobody knew my name. Everybody called me Tennessee. Everybody I ever made contact, I give them my name and they don't know it. I say Tennessee, they know.
Mm-hmm.
And I called him and I said, told my name, and he didn't know. I said, you call me Tennessee. He thought of me and he said, Tennessee, you always wore a boonie hat. And I did. I wore a boonie hat all the time.
Wow.
yeah.
So he remembered me as wearing a boonie hat all the time.
Oh, that's pretty neat. I like that. I like that a lot.
I served in an honor guard in Fort Lewis, Washington. That was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all the
Oh yeah.
decked out, and where we twirl our rifles and do all that fancy stuff. A lot of practice.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just thankful to be here. Good Lord watched over me. I always said he had a plan for me. I don't know what that plan is, but I hope that I fulfill it, you know, before I die. So,
Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say?
you know, the Vietnam veterans didn't get the welcome home that most other veterans got. We welcome each other all the time. You know, if I see a person with a veteran's hat on or a license plate or anything that recognizes them as a Vietnam vet, I go up and I say, welcome home, brother. And when I say that, they know I was there. They'll
Right.
say, what year? You know, and then we start communicating. And what surprised me, I've met hundreds and hundreds since Vietnam and talked to them. I've only met a handful that was with the 101st. I only met one that was with the same company and everything that I was, but he was there after I was. And I didn't know him.
Yeah.
And he had some memory loss, and he had it written down on a card, because when I asked him, he didn't know. He said, this is where, and he gave me the card and showed me, you know. But, yeah, it's, so we all welcome each other home, and I feel like, you know, it's my honor to serve. I'd do it again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if my service is needed even at my age,
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'd pick up and go, and I think most veterans feel that way. It's a brotherhood, I think, veterans, and it don't matter if it's Navy, Marines, Air Force, you know, whatever.
Right.
All veterans are, in my book, are veterans, are
All the
brothers.
same, right.
And so,
Well, we thank you for coming on. Love to have you back. If you
Thank you.
want to come back and tell some, you know,
may do that sometime.
give us some more details or
Sure.
anything you
I
want
can
to
tell
talk
you
about.
stories all day long.
Well, we do appreciate it. And like, you know, this obviously is live, but it's on YouTube and it's on a couple other platforms, so we can, you know, we can share it and get out to as many people as we can.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you
Thank
for
you, David.
inviting me.
I appreciate you coming
And,
on. Absolutely. And thank you for
Thank you.
for making a connection there, Fred.
Not a problem. That's what I do.
And thank you both for your service.
You too.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
You too.
Thank you all for being with us, and thank you for taking the time to watch our program. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, so please be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons as well as the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We appreciate your support. Thanks again to Jonathan and Mary for their financial support from July through November. We really appreciate it. Check out our audio podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and other platforms as well. Sign up for our weekly newsletter at our website, teeninformer.com. Please find and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Our guest tomorrow is a damn good Yankee from Vermont named Jeb Smith, here to tell us about his new book, Defending Dixie's Land, what every American should know about the South and the Civil War. You don't want to miss this when Jeb blows up the lies still being pushed today about the real causes of the war, slavery, and anything but honest Abe Lincoln. It will be worth your time. Our guest on December 1st, the first guest, will continue to focus on the war for Southern independence with Gene Andrews. He will be here to discuss how some major battles could have turned out different if only the powers that be had listened to Nathan Bedford Forrest. In our second show next week, Don Gorham of the Gorham Homestead in Dixon joins us to tell us about their operations there and, believe it or not, government interference that she has experienced over the issue of raw milk. Yes, Tennessee has milk Nazis. If you're in the 7th District, remember to vote in the special election. Hold your nose and vote Van Epps. Got to keep the commie bean out. Hope you can join us next week. That's it for now. Good night from Paris, Tennessee, that is.